Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rewilded Human podcast and to the Aging Games. I'm going to be sharing this on both my platforms, and I've got two amazing guests for you guys today, and we'll be talking about my two favorite supplements, glutathione and NAD+, and why they are so important for optimal health, for anti-aging, and just for your body overall to feel amazing. They have been life-changing for me. So the two guests that I have for you today, the first one is Niki Davis. Niki is a former senior event producer for brands like Google and Samsung. She turned to NAD plus therapy to regain her health after battling long COVID, chronic fatigue, and autoimmune issues while raising triplets on her own. This lady's amazing. Inspired by her journey, she co-founded NAD Plus at Home, making this powerful therapy accessible to all. And then we have Dr. Abs, whom I love. I've been following him for many years, so I'm a little bit starstruck speaking to him today, but also very excited. Dr. Abs is an expert in cosmetic and longevity medicine with a background in cosmetic dentistry, biotechnology, and cutting-edge research in metabolism and aging. As an international speaker, university lecturer, and key opinion leader, he brings advanced insights on health and wellness to audiences and professionals worldwide. Okay, Niki and Dr. Abs, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to talk today about my two favorite supplements in the whole world, NAD plus and glutathione. And I think let's start with NAD because it's such an exciting new supplement that everyone's talking about, but I think a lot of people don't understand exactly what it is and what it does. So, Dr. Abs, should we start with you?
I'm guessing most of your audience are not full-blown biochemistry scientists, so I'll
No,
try.
so let's keep it simple. Definitely not.
I would try and keep things in layman's terms, which I'm told I'm okay at. So when you put things in your mouth to eat, the reason we put them in our mouth is because ultimately we want to fuel our function of our body.
Yes.
And we are essentially taking what we put in our mouth, turning it into a specific molecule called ATP as best as we can, which is an energy currency. It's a token that we spend. If we want a cell to do this, we spend this many ATP. If we want a cell to do that, we spend that many ATP. And then once we spend that currency, that function is then carried out. So for a liver cell to break down alcohol, for a skin cell to produce collagen, for a brain cell to send a nervous signal, all of these things are functions, and you have to put fuel in your car to allow the car to drive somewhere. That fuel is ATP, and going from food in our mouth to ATP, there's a lot of processes there. That's essentially metabolism in the whole field of metabolism. NAD is part of that process from taking the food that we put in our mouth and turning it into this energy currency. It's a role, it plays a role in getting from one end of that spectrum to the other, and that is all. So it allows us to do the things our cells are meant to be doing. So think of not having enough fuel in your car. You'll just get spurts of bursts in the car, and then eventually it will just stop. So if you don't have the currency in your cell, the same thing, you just struggle to carry out the function. That's why it's so universal. That's why it's used in so many different things. That's why studies are looking at its involvement in so many different processes, because it is genuinely involved in everything, because it's involved in the energy production process, to put it in layman's terms.
Yes, that's a great explanation. And this is also something that declines as we get older, correct?
It's not that NAD
Mm-hmm.
is meant to decline. We find declines,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't mean that body will naturally make itself worse over time. If that was the case, none of us would be alive today,
Mm-hmm.
because our ancestors would have died out a long time ago.
Yes.
So we do find less as we get older, not because our body wants to kill itself as we get older, but because of the damage that we do to ourselves as we get older.
Yeah, that's very true for most of us, definitely. Now, Niki, you have a very interesting story about NAD and how it helped with your health, and you had some health issues that you were dealing with, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I co-founded NAD at Home from a position of sickness and real lack of energy. So I had have long COVID, and also I've got Hashimoto's, and that all of that together produced a storm of chronic fatigue. With four children, and trying to keep up with, I've got 18-year-old triplets and an 8-year-old, so I've got a big family and lots of demands around me. I was absolutely exhausted. And I remember with my Aura ring, I was measuring my sleep, and my
Yeah.
deep sleep was at 3 minutes.
Wow.
3 minutes.
That's great.
So
With triplets. Wow, that's pretty scary.
that was a severely depleted biology right here. And so just after many investigations, I came across NAD on an IV drip all those years ago. Um, and the change was miraculous. I went from 3 minutes of deep sleep to an hour and a half almost
Wow.
overnight. So for me, I had a metric there that showed me how this coenzyme, because that's what it is
Yeah.
essentially, a natural coenzyme, affected my biology. And that just kind of set the wheels in motion of bringing NAD therapy to kind of to the masses as much as we could.
No,
So yeah,
that's amazing. And there's so many people that are still suffering from long COVID that are still not recovered. So there are, the potential market for people is actually huge.
huge,
Yeah.
huge. And I think
What?
when I discovered it, it was only on an IV.
Yeah.
And the reason we produced this kind of microdosing injectable kit, because that's kind
Mhm.
of that was our hero product, is
Yes.
because everything shut down. Nobody could go out for an IV. And also, to be honest, an IV is only suitable for the chronically deficient, which happens to be somebody who's a chronic alcoholic or an
Mhm.
addict. That's the cohort that should use IV, not kind of you and I, or it's really only suited to people that are chronically deficient. We don't all need an IV.
And also another issue with the IV that I found is that it's super expensive. Like in Spain, near Marbella, for example, some clinics were
Mm,
charging like 1,000, 1,400. I was looking into it a couple of years ago, and it was so expensive for one treatment. And
mm,
obviously, one treatment is not enough. And I mean, this is how I found you guys and how I found out about NAD plus at home, because it just gets so expensive. And then I was going to another doctor who was doing the injections, the intramuscular injections, and I was getting that on a regular basis, and I was feeling amazing, and I was loving it. But I have to travel to another country still because I'm in Gibraltar. I have to go to Spain. I have to pay, the tolls. I have to pay the gas, the
mm,
parking, and the
mm,
injections, which are
mm,
expensive. Not as expensive as the IV, but it still gets really, really costly. So when I started looking around, and I said, "There's got to be another way to do this," and this is how I found you guys. So
mm,
this was absolutely life changing for me to be able to just have this at home and inject myself every few days or as I feel that my
mm,
body needs it, because you really can tell when your body's in need of it. Like when it starts running, especially with glutathione as well, I really feel like, okay, now it's like time for my injection. You just kind of
mm,
feel differently, right?
mm.
Now, what would be like the main benefits of using NAD? Like what kind of things would, I mean, I can talk about some of the stuff that I've noticed for myself, but what would be like a typical result or typical things that people would notice? Like we talked about energy, that they would feel more energetic, they would sleep better. What other things could it possibly help with?
I think it depends on what the individual is presenting with.
Hmm.
Understanding that NAD plays a role in, let's be honest, most things in the body in terms of metabolism allows you to understand the wide scope. And so the individual clinical presentation is what's most important here. It sounds like I'm avoiding the question to listeners, but I'd like to tell them it's impossible to say what each individual will feel first, second, or third in terms of changes,
Yes.
because each individual is so different. Their diet is different, the amount of sunshine they get is different, their exercise is different, their disease, their medications, their allergies, etc. It's so different. And so there are a few things that seem to be in common, but the rest seem to be so individual. So, for example, I know someone whose high blood pressure disappeared when they started taking this.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that everyone's going to get a lower blood pressure,
Mhm.
but he got that because of his individual situation.
Yes.
Niki mentioned the sleep improved. The sleep does improve pretty commonly. That's a relatively common one. Skin and hair and nails also seem to improve in appearance. People's skin texture seems to be a lot smoother. That's what people have reported. My patients have reported the same. I find that eyesight tends to improve, the quality of hair growth tends to improve, the quality of nail growth tends to improve. People find that the speed of growth is also higher for hair and nails,
Mhm.
interestingly.
Mm.
And
Can
then
I just
beyond, of
stop? Can
course
I
you can, of
just
course you
stop
can.
on the eye? Just only because you said about eyes, and we're about to do a case study with, interestingly, another lady who has a company called Nibu Naturals. She has, I think she's got a version of glaucoma,
Mhm.
and after taking NAD, the pressure in her eyes has visibly reduced. it's insane. She's sharing the results with her ophthalmologist, and
Wow.
we're going to really dig deep into that, because that was the first time. Even I keep finding things out. Our
Yeah.
customers come back to us, and I was so excited because I was like, the pressure in your
That
eyes
is
is
super
reducing.
exciting. And I
It's
actually
dig in.
found that like a few times it has happened to me already. Like normally I sit down at my desk and then the first thing I do is put on my glasses to see my computer. And
Yeah.
a few times I have actually forgotten my glasses and there I am typing away and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have my glasses on. And this is since I've been using NAD
Yeah.
and glutathione regularly. So it's
Mm.
really, really interesting, but definitely, and my eyesight has been declining for the past couple of
Mm.
decades. Like once you hit kind of 40, just it's like all downhill with your eyesight. So
Yeah.
I definitely have noticed that. And I really want to see what's going to happen, going forward in a couple of years. Like, will it
Mm.
continue to improve? That would be
Mm.
amazing. And Dr. Abs, you mentioned the skin, and I've
Mm.
definitely seen that. Like, especially, okay, you do all these treatments, you do all this stuff for your face, right? So you try to like, maintain it for as long as possible. I'm 54. But on your body, like what can you really do with your body? You can't have like laser treatments and everything from head to toe. So you're kind of stuck with, the skin starts getting a little bit creepy and everything. Crepey, right? Not
Crepey, yeah,
creepy.
crepey and
More
creepy.
crepey
Yeah.
than creepy, but it looks creepy after it's quite crepey. And and I've actually noticed that it's like, even on the arms and like just the texture of the skin is more elastic. It feels a bit thicker. It feels smoother. And I haven't changed anything. I haven't done anything else, not with my diet, not with anything else. But it's just like everything looks tighter, looks better.
Mm.
That's to do with the metabolism again.
Mm-hmm.
So metabolism, just to go back to basics for a second here, if you're ready to understand, metabolism is the combination of building and breaking down. So
Mm-hmm.
building is anabolism and breaking down is catabolism. Metabolism is just how we take the world around us and make it part of us. And so building and breaking down is what cells are always deciding between, without being too technical,
Mm-hmm.
either growing or surviving, growing or storing. And when we see certain organs start to improve, it's because they can start to build the things they need to build, i.e., produce the outputs that they need to output. And when you take that context into skin cells, that can mean things like outputting more elastic fibers, more glycosaminoglycans like hyaluronic acid, and so on and so forth. And when people will see that change, this obviously isn't being targeted in the skin. We're not injecting it all over our body. We're injecting it into one place so it spreads everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it's useful to note and remember, if we see this happening to the skin, well, clearly our whole body must be experiencing a similar type of journey, shall we say.
Like your
So
organs, for example, your liver,
yeah,
your heart, everything should be rejuvenating at the same time on the
yeah.
inside.
I believe the liver, the heart, and the brain. This is just my belief. I have no evidence for this whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an opinion. But my opinion is those organs are going to be among the first to start to see improvements
Mm-hmm.
because of the way they interact with this molecule in terms of receptor integration.
It's really, really exciting. And I watch a lot of your videos. I love your
Oh,
videos.
thank you.
And I've been a fan for a long time, so I'm a little bit starstruck here. But when you talk about all these different cosmetic procedures and everything like that. So how do you think like NAD would fit in with the cosmetic procedures? Can it replace some of these procedures, or would you use it in conjunction with, with the laser treatments, with the fillers and other treatments that you would be doing?
It's a great question. I don't think it replaces,
Mm-hmm.
and the ideal patient probably would have both
Mm-hmm.
in a safe and appropriate way, which I think goes without saying.
Yes.
And so the NAD plus is going to actually work on the inside. Again, trying to keep things simple.
Mm-hmm.
And the inside is what allows or makes the outside get worse over time anyway.
Yeah.
So NAD plus, if you had to choose between them, the NAD plus actually is the one that's going to be more beneficial for your actual aging.
Yeah.
When we use these procedures to treat certain things on the skin, we're not treating aging. People have to remember this. They say anti-aging in the clinic, but that's just marketing. It's not actually anti-aging. You are anti-symptom.
Yes.
You are
Correct.
anti-symptom of aging.
Yes.
Those procedures will treat those symptoms, such as a wrinkle in simple terms, but it's not going to prevent the aging process from occurring at the same rate or in the same way after you walk out the clinic. And so ideally, if budget allows, I would suggest both.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I work in clinic, everyone that comes to me, I mean, to be honest, everyone that comes to me, they, like yourself, they see my video, so they know how I work. I'm
Yes.
not interested in shoving in an injection to treat something and then making them come back 3 months later to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We treat the inside and the outside at the same time.
Yeah.
So I talk to them about things like NAD plus and diet and glutathione, and UV damage, all these sorts of things. And then we also talk about the procedures. And so the whole view is prevention, which is where the NAD plus comes in, as well as treatment of the symptoms that already exist in that cosmetic context.
That's wonderful. I mean, I love that holistic approach, and I think
Yeah.
more physicians should be, especially aesthetic physicians, should be
Yeah.
having this holistic approach, because it's not just about, smoothing out the wrinkles. Because I always say this, I mean, the reflection or the quality of your skin is always a reflection of what's happening on the inside. So I mean,
Yeah.
you can have a facelift and this nice tight thing, but the quality of your skin is terrible, or you have all kinds of different skin conditions. It's always a reflection of what's going on the inside of your body. So if you
Sure.
don't have a healthy body on the inside, yeah, maybe you'll get rid of the wrinkles with Botox or fillers or whatever, but you're not going to have that healthy, glowing looking skin, which you can only really get when you have the holistic approach and healthy mind, body, soul, everything all together.
You can
Right?
treat a wrinkle for the next 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
or you can think about the next few decades until the day you die, in
Yeah.
terms of quality of life, quality of health, and lack of disease, and rate of aging, etc., etc. And many people will consider the next 3 months as more important because they are seeing that in the now. But I
It's
always
very
implore
sad,
patients,
but
yeah,
it's
I think
true. It's very
yeah,
sad.
I
Because we want
understand,
instant results.
exactly.
It's like we
Yeah.
want to go in 5 minutes, we want to be done, and we want to be perfect. And I
Yeah.
mean, with supplements and with lifestyle, dietary changes, everything, it takes time. And I
Yeah.
think with NAD plus, it's the same. You're not going to buy like one vial and do a couple of injections and expect to, wow,
Well, I'm going to interject
or
there. It is the first time I think I've ever seen a supplement which we don't need to wait 6 weeks. So NAD goes to where it's needed first.
Mhm.
It goes exactly where it's needed. And if you are chronically deficient, maybe I don't know, a hangover is a good example. Simply, if you were just
Mhm.
going to use it to mitigate against a hangover, you're going to see it pretty quickly. It is
Wow.
almost instantaneous. If you desperately need it, you'll
Mhm.
see it. So yeah, it's the one thing I can say, no, you don't have, because we're all sick of waiting 6 weeks
Yeah,
to
that
see
is
which
true.
supplements dropping
Yes.
in. I
Yes.
mean, it is unbelievable. It really is. You can only just try it yourself though to see.
So you guys are getting some really cool feedback from people, some really good stories.
It's endless. You look at our trust pilot. We just, it sounds like we're making it up. It sounds like we're talking about the limitless drug, the film Limitless with Bradley Cooper. It feels like that. It does feel like a kind of rewrite of Limitless a little bit. Yeah,
It's
it really
amazing.
does.
Is there any existing research or any research being done on NAD plus actually slowing down the aging process?
Well, I mean, you can, I always say I point to nadresearch.org. That's a company sorry, it's God, what are they called? They're like a charity organization that
Mhm.
combine all their research together. And there's lots of research going on with neurodegeneration. So there's been some studies with Parkinson's,
Mhm.
another similar neurodegenerative disease, and they're seeing some amazing results.
Wow.
So if you look at nadresearch.org, you'll kind of find lots of studies there.
Okay.
Perhaps you knew
No, I will
some
definitely
more,
look at that, and
Yeah.
I'll link that below as well, because
please.
it would be really interesting to look into that further. How often would you recommend for someone at home who is using NAD plus at home? How often would you recommend for them to do the injections?
Again, it is individual. I'm speaking generally here. So there will be exceptions to this, and there will be people that do need to see someone.
Mhm.
It depends again on the individual, but as a rough rule, it might be something along the lines of every other day.
Mhm.
Now, I do really, really, really want to stress that is a generalization.
Mhm.
Many times in my clinic, I have altered that based on the clinical presentation of the patient. But as a rough average, you're looking at about once every other day. Now, I will also say, as a matter of clinical safety, there is such a thing as too much.
Okay.
More doesn't necessarily mean better.
Mhm.
You can harm yourself by going into an excess amount, and that's not a good thing. I won't go into technical details of why, but just know that there is such a thing as too much, and there is a golden window, which is the sensible amount.
So you would not do it daily, but like every second day would be fine, or maybe
Depends
three,
on the patient.
depends
I
on
do
the
it
patient.
daily. I
Yeah,
am a daily.
You have it daily.
yeah. I used to do it daily as well.
Mhm.
I don't need that now.
So it kind of builds up in your body, right? And then you can decrease the dose or spread out the dosage a little bit.
Think of it as a bucket, okay?
Okay.
So you are filling this bucket with water.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a hole in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the rate of the input and the rate of the output,
Mm-hmm.
you can maintain that water level as full as you can.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how big that person's hole is, i.e. what they're eating, what their lifestyle is like. So you don't know how much they're being deficient in all the time. That's different.
Yes.
You also don't know the rate of how much is going in, because that is their diet and lifestyle plus this supplement.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to balance those things up. And that is why I have to say, I'm speaking generally. And part of the consultation is to turn this analogy of a bucket. I want to figure out what the rate of flow is
Mm-hmm.
and the rate of escape is. Then I know for that person how to balance the two.
Now, somebody who's doing this at home on their own and they're not under the care of a physician, how can they tailor it for their own use and to know what the optimal dose would be?
So they can look at the averages. However, I have to say, people at home are not PhDs in biochemistry.
Mm-hmm.
They are not experts in metabolic process. So there is always a limit as to what you will know if you are someone at home, hence why people like clinicians exist. However, as a rough guide, you can simply taper it based on symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get an improvement in symptoms with a particular dose, and then slowly it actually gets worse, you feel some symptoms which are negative with that dose, then you can start to taper it based on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best you can do at home without turning into a full-on researcher like the great Ross Grant, for example. You know, he's someone Niki and I both look up to. He's fantastic in this field. He has spent his life looking at this to have the knowledge he has.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I think, useless for someone at home to try and get the same level of knowledge just from sitting at home without doing what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's only a limit. And I think the best you can do at home for that reason is what I've just said, which is to try and taper it against symptoms.
Yeah. And we do have a service as well as part
Yes.
of when you buy from us, when you buy from NAD at home, you can email either doctor at NADAID or help at NADAID. I mean, that's all on our website. But we do have a service where we will give you a hand. And obviously there are contraindications as well. We do say to stay away from this if you're pregnant or breastfeeding.
Yes.
And pre or post cancer treatment.
Mm-hmm.
But that's more erring on the side of caution rather than definitive evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And we have just had an event with Ross Grant talking at an event very recently last week, and we will be slowly publishing some of that content on our channels where it's interesting, but we just like to stay away from cancer, I think.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. I think that goes for most supplements, most natural supplements.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And same with nursing or pregnant ladies, the same situation. So I understand completely.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to ask you guys about is, like, I talk to everyone about your products. I mean, I'm super excited about it, and I think it's honestly life-changing. The biggest pushback I get from people is the fear of injecting yourself. And I tell them that it's super easy. It's a subcutaneous injection. It's fast. It's painless. The needles are small, very thin. But what can you tell people that are very nervous about doing this at home?
There are many patients who have never injected insulin before.
Mm-hmm.
Then one day they are told they are type 1 diabetic and they now require insulin in order to be alive. It is very extraordinary what you see someone accept once they're told it's essential for their life. And suddenly that thought of injecting insulin is nothing, because they see the other side if they don't inject it. But then when they do inject it, they realize it's actually nothing.
Yeah.
And it's all in the head.
Yes.
And practically every patient out there who is using this product, when they first use it, they may have found it intimidating. Now it's nothing. It really, really is nothing. And there are millions of diabetics around the world injecting insulin like it's nothing. Yeah, and they were in the same position initially where they thought, I can't do this. And now they do it like it's nothing. So it's really not a problem at all. And it's just psychological. That's my view.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've worked very hard to come up with an alternative, and we just have launched a
Yep.
liposomal
Yeah, let's talk
tablet.
about that for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, because there are going to be the cohort that whatever you do, they wouldn't inject. So yeah,
Hmm.
we have a liposomal product that we've worked incredibly hard to make
Which will
sure
be, it's in a capsule, correct?
it's a capsule.
Yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, one a
And
day.
how will that compare? How would you say that it compares to the injections?
I mean, look, we say IV is the absolute gold standard
Hmm.
if you can tolerate and if you need an IV. So
Yeah.
again, that's back to I mean, look, IV's first use case was in rehabs.
Yes.
That's where we discovered it. That's where we found it in Mexico and Tijuana in a rehab setting.
Hmm.
Um, so that's for that cohort. And then next one down is the subcutaneous injection, which obviously I either intramuscular or subcutaneous. We go with the subcutaneous.
Yes.
And then the one below that is for a more consistent, steady level is the liposomal.
Hmm.
Abs, you might be able to explain a little bit more about the
Because the
liposomal.
absorption is the issue, right? With a lot of supplements that are on the market, is that,
Mm.
people are taking it, it's not cheap, and it's just simply not being absorbed by the body.
So there is always going to be, with any supplement in the entire world, a dependency on the digestion process.
Yes.
If you are taking it orally, you can't get away from that. Each individual, and I'm not talking about each supplement, I'm talking about the same supplement across every single person in the world, will have a varied level of absorption, because individuals' gastrointestinal tract, their digestive tract, is different. Their level of stomach acid is different. Their level of other pieces of food in the intestine is different. Their gut microbiome, extremely important, is always different. And so it's actually impossible, in my view, to say the exact conversion amount or absorption amount of this particular supplement, any supplement, for every person in the world, because I think every person will be different.
Yes.
So it's impossible to measure a single figure for everyone. However, we do know that liposomal mechanisms of absorption do work, and people are going to see an improvement in terms of getting some NAD in there. But again, I have to say, I don't know how much, because no one in the world knows how much. It's impossible. Yeah. But if they cannot tolerate an injection, there is nothing wrong with using this instead.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to just weigh up. All I would say to patients is weigh up the fact that actually, I think the injection may be better value for money for most people. Because if you take this much, whatever number of milligrams that is, in a liposomal form, mm-hmm. you will get something less than that actually into the body, which is, again, same for any supplement in the world.
Yes.
Whereas if you take the same amount in an injected, it's all going in. Mm-hmm. So what you could do as a liposomal user is simply take a little bit more if you wanted to try, and if you somehow manage to work out your absorption amount or ratio.
Yes.
But then if that means you run out of the pills quicker, isn't it actually cheaper potentially to just look at the injection instead? Mm-hmm. And so I would always say the injection is better in my personal view. Mm-hmm. But for those who can't, for whatever reason, fair enough, not a problem. Then you have that liposomal. So for me, the way I view it is top priority is the injection, and then you go to the liposomal if that's not possible.
It's great that you guys actually give this option to your customers. I mean, I was really excited to see that, because I did get that pushback from people about the injection. So it's nice to have that option. But I agree with you. I mean, I'm very happy to do the injections, and you do get comfortable with. I even have my parents. They're 74 years old. They live in Hungary, in a little small town, and they've got their glutathione, and they're injecting themselves and everything. I showed them how to do it. When they're here, I do it for them. But now they're back home and they're doing it themselves, and I'm so proud of them. So I mean, if they can do it and learn at their age, then anybody can do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to be your own N of one, as they say. You have to have your own biological study.
Absolutely.
We can't really tell anyone anything. You do it. You tell me if it works. If it works, it works.
Exactly.
Whichever modality you want to do. But we're all trying all different things to see what lands.
And right now we are being exposed to so many different chemicals and so many different things in our environment, and the stressful life and the blue lights that we're sitting under and everything. So it's so important to take charge and control over our health. So I love having that ability to do that, to having these products in my fridge. And like this week, I caught something like a flu. I had a fever and my nose was running. I was feeling like crap. coughing and everything. The first day was pretty bad. I just doubled my dose of glutathione, which we will talk about next. And then, I was doing the NAD plus and I was doing double doses. And the next day I was better. And the third day, absolutely fine. So, I mean, it was gone in 2 days. The same flu that knocks people off their feet for 2 weeks or a week, and they need to take time off work. I was absolutely fine. So it makes such a big difference. And people need to realize this, that, your health is in your hands. I mean, you can go suppress the fever, get antibiotics and, get pain medication and decongestant and all this stuff. But ultimately, your body needs to detox. So the toxins need to come out and you need to support your body through natural means as possible.
I mean, I say to some patients, actually, as we go from children to adults, there are certain things that we are taught and we wish we were taught. For example, just stick with me for a second, but sometimes we wish that schools taught us how to get a mortgage properly, how bank loans work and these sort of things, how to fix a plug, how to change a light bulb, things which, aren't going to make or break your job, but just life skills.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
one of those skills is knowing what to have in your medicine cupboard at home. Just what basic things do, not necessarily to a doctor's level, but just to understand what kind of thing, Band-Aids, antiseptic, iodine, blah, blah, blah. My view is we are missing things in our medicine cupboard that should be there. On a basic level, our parents, sometimes when we used to cut our skin, they used to rub iodine on there just to make sure it's nice and clean. That's disappeared.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Yeah.
I think that should come back. And I think over time, what I hope to see is more and more people know about NAD plus, and that makes its way into that medicine cupboard, and people are able to utilize it for the sort of things that you just said.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea for a YouTube video for you, Dr. Abs.
Yeah, I should.
What, right? What you should
Very
have
engaging.
at home in your medicine, in your natural medicine cabinet. So, okay, so let's talk about glutathione, and because that's my second favorite supplement, and also available from NAD Plus at home, and also available through an injection. A lot of people are taking it also in a capsule form. But I do like the injections. I've been doing them for many years. Like I said, going to the doctor and having it done weekly, which I don't think was nearly enough, sometimes bi-weekly. So it's amazing for me to have this at home, and I'm super excited about glutathione. So can you guys explain a little bit about what glutathione is, what it does? I mean, we know it's a master antioxidant. It's a powerful antioxidant. It's great for the liver, great for the immune system. But what exactly is glutathione?
It's like you say, it's an antioxidant, but before we go into it, people need to understand what antioxidant actually means. Once you understand what it means, you realize the requirement for a human being in their diet of antioxidants is 0. We do not need to eat any antioxidants whatsoever because we produce our own. We produce our own endogenous, i.e. internal glutathione. And that has been selected for over 4.5 million years. That tells you it is the perfect antioxidant for our needs. If we needed more, we would be using many more. But what are we actually using? We're using glutathione. And I always say to patients, don't buy all these random antioxidants that you buy in a supermarket. If you want one, glutathione directly into you is the best one. And I put my money where my mouth is. I don't take a load of antioxidants. If I do take anything, it is the glutathione, it is injected. And one of the main reasons for that, which people may not know, is most antioxidants are not actually antioxidants. They are pro-oxidants. So when we place them into a body, we can measure the increase in glutathione, which is an antioxidant. If something is an antioxidant, why is it increasing glutathione production? If you are going towards the opponent team's goal and their defense spikes up, it's clearly because you're attacking them. So if something is coming into our body and we're producing glutathione in response, which is an antioxidant, clearly it's responding to oxidative stress. And most antioxidants are measured as antioxidants by how much they increase glutathione. But in order to increase the amount of an antioxidant, you yourself have to be a pro-oxidant. They come in pairs.
Exactly.
Whereas glutathione itself is not a pro-oxidant. It is a true antioxidant, which is why it is the golden standard. Now, there is one other antioxidant, which is true in that sense, which is not a pro-oxidant, but that's a topic for another day. But essentially, glutathione is all we need to worry about. And when we look at the aging process, one of the reasons we find aging is because of damage to internal structures. So our mitochondria, which are crucial, they are the main office, if you like, in terms of this conversion of food to ATP. They have a process, they have a pathway called NRF2. NRF2 is the pathway that these pro-oxidants stimulate to then produce glutathione, like turmeric, for example. But turmeric is not technically an antioxidant. It's a pro-oxidant if it's increasing glutathione production. If you go and look at the studies, any study you like in the world, if you really read it carefully, you will see this. And that's important because if you stimulate that pathway too much, it doesn't then just produce a little bit of glutathione to defense. It then thinks, right, there's too much here. Then it goes into a pathway called nuclear factor kappa B, which is just outright body defense. So glutathione is preventing against oxidative stress. And these mitochondria, they have like an outer capsule and an inner capsule, like a Russian doll, but they're not the same shape. The inner capsule is the same shape as the outer with all these projections that come out of the wall, like spikes when there's ice from the ceiling hanging down. And all these spikes and fingers are inside. And that's where our energy production process takes place mainly. So if you damage that because of oxidative stress, your ability to convert from food to ATP is then limited and damaged again. And that happens in many, many different things, in many, many disease processes, in many, many lifestyle choices that you do to yourself, like smoking as a basic one. So if you use something like glutathione, you're repairing some of the most fundamental damage done to your body, which is responsible for the totality of its function. So again, it's similar to NAD plus in that you can't say it gives this specific symptom benefit or feeling. It actually just works on everything functioning better all at the same time. It's a long-winded answer, but I hope it paints a good picture.
I'm like, no, that's incredible. That's the best answer that we can ask for. Absolutely, because it's a very complex thing, and it's really important to understand exactly how it affects our bodies and how it works inside our bodies, and it is one of the most powerful supplements. I truly believe that everyone should be, especially in today's world. I mean, oxidative stress is affecting everyone. It's not just smokers or alcoholics. It's affecting everyone because nobody really has that pristine lifestyle where we're growing our own food and raising our animals, and it's just everything is toxic today. So I think it's really really important to have this supplement. Now with glutathione, it has a very positive effect on the liver, on detoxing the liver, correct? Can we talk about that a little bit? Because that's also the liver is obviously the organ of detoxification, and it's failing for many people. And how does glutathione support the liver, and why is this important?
So glutathione, again, it exhibits antioxidant property in many places. In terms of the actual process, it's actually the same everywhere. But in the liver, we just have a very high requirement. That's all. So it doesn't do something different in different organs. It's the same thing, but certain organs need it more than the other. For example, if you look at the epidermis, the skin, where there's just dead cells at some point, there's no need. But if it was there, it would work in the same way. Now, the liver is what we use for things like phase 2 detoxification, using enzymes like UDP, glucuronidase transferase. This is basically where we take rubbish that we've accidentally eaten or purposely eaten in some cases, and we clean ourselves from it so it doesn't affect us. And then phase 3 detoxification is just excretion of that product, getting rid of it out of our body through whatever means necessary. Now, phase 2 detoxification is essentially something that's active all the time in some people because of all the damage they do to their bodies. So if that process can't happen properly, then the toxins are able to actually exhibit their toxic effects on our body. That's why the liver is so important, and it is such a huge user of our kind of energy in terms of our metabolic efforts. The liver is right up there, one of the highest metabolically active organs that we have because of its ability to constantly detox and in phase 2 detoxification. So if you give glutathione back, you are able to help your body stay toxin free as best as you can. Now, I am compressing this without simply because I'm trying not to be too complicated. So eagle-eyed viewers and very technical viewers will know that I've missed things out, but I've done that on purpose. But it's because of the phase 2 detoxification that glutathione replenishment gives us such a great benefit there. Because just imagine for yourself, if your body is full of toxins versus no toxins,
Absolutely.
it's very obvious what that's going to do for you.
Absolutely. And I know doctors who are using it currently, holistic doctors who are using it for people who are having side effects as, after the, I can't even say it because,
Yeah,
I'm already
definitely.
demonetized, so I have to be careful what I say, but
The
hopefully
C word.
the C word, yes, exactly. So there's something that was given against the C word. And so this doctor is using his main protocol is using glutathione injections to help bring people back to health. And he's been able to really, with some really serious cases and some serious illnesses, he was able to turn it all around with the help of glutathione. So, I mean, it's incredibly powerful.
Is that a doctor in Gibraltar?
He's in Spain, actually.
He's in Spain.
He's in Spain. Yeah, that's who I've been going to for many years. And it's incredible. And, his practice, since all this happened, he's got thousands and thousands of new patients because they're going to him because he's the only one in the whole area doing it. And he's, saving lives. It's absolutely remarkable. Now, as far as glutathione, in some places they use it for skin lightening. I've seen that they're doing injections for skin lightening, but I would assume that's a different dosage than what you guys are working with, correct?
100%.
Yeah, but it also has some amazing anti-aging properties as well, right? So not just lightening the skin in larger doses, but I mean, what can it do for our skin, for our hair, for slowing down aging?
So it's not technically, and if people do want to be technical, it's not actually slowing down aging. It is repairing damage. It is repairing oxidative stress. That through that process, i.e. indirectly, it can play a role in the rate at which someone ages, but it's not going to be doing it directly.
Yes.
So when it reduces oxidative damage, okay, think of it this way. Imagine your cell function is like this big machine with lots of gears, but the gears are pretty rusty, so they grind. It's hard to turn sometimes, and sometimes they get stuck and all these sorts of things. So the rate of production of this machine is very low. Putting glutathione in is like getting rid of all the rust and spraying everything with a lubricant, and it just works perfectly like a brand new gearbox coming out of a car. So you can select any gear and it does everything perfectly. That's essentially what glutathione is trying to do. Again, it is just an analogy and there are flaws in it, but hopefully it explains to people what's going on.
I personally love that. I personally really want to fancy a little bit now. I just maybe want to run and get it done there.
And so when that happens and you get less clunking of the gears, you get less damage to the gears. And that's the indirect effect on aging. So if everything is running smoothly, you're less likely to have any aging acceleration, shall we say. And so that's the indirect connection to anti-aging, again, put in a relatively simple way.
No, that sounds really good. How do the two supplements work together? Are they complementary?
That's a great question. 100% they are. 100% they are, because think, and I'll try and put this in another analogy if you like. So if you imagine that the mitochondria is an office where lots of people are putting together this molecule called ATP for energy. Now let's pretend the office itself has a hole in the wall. So you get loads of cold breezes and everyone's shivering and they can't work very well. And then the heating goes off and then someone kicks a football through the window and someone's head gets hurt and things. These workers aren't able to produce these things very well. Glutathione is coming in and making the office, it's patching up the wall, it's fixing the window, it's turning the heating on, it's allowing the oxidative stress on the mitochondria to reduce so the energy production process can happen in a much easier way. So glutathione is general damage to structures, including structures that are used in ATP production, which is why they can complement.
So would you recommend for people to use it on the same day or on alternate days? I usually just do the injections all at, both one after the other, and then I do it every couple of days. Would you recommend that, or would it be better alternating days?
In my personal view, and this is a personal view because there's no study in using them in combination for the best dose, I would say it doesn't actually matter too much.
Mm-hmm.
What's more important is that you're safe in the dosing size that you're using,
Yes.
and you're doing things to not make it worse at the same time. What do I mean by that? So it's all very well and good taking glutathione and NAD, but I think it's useless if you're someone that gets drunk every day and smokes 50 cigarettes a day and lives off Burger King and KFC all the time.
Absolutely.
I know it's pretty obvious, but I just want to state it for the record.
Yeah.
And so doing the right dose in combination with those kind of thoughts and separating them out in terms of bad lifestyle choices, that's more important than same day or every other day.
That makes sense. And can you guys tell us a little bit about how you started this company, where the idea came from? And
Yeah, sure. John Gillen is the pioneer of this. John Gillen was the first person to bring this to the rehab world in 2009. And he
mm-hmm.
brought it over as an IV drip, and he was the first in Europe in 2009. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, it was during COVID where people couldn't get out to get their IV. He actually assembled and put together this microdosed version, a subcutaneous injection kit. And then I came in and we kind of set this whole NAD at home up together. And yeah, that's kind of the short version.
And you guys are in the UK, but you do ship worldwide, right?
We ship worldwide, and yeah, we're getting orders from every corner of the earth at the moment, to be
That's
fair.
fantastic.
And, yeah,
It's
so yeah,
fantastic.
ship worldwide. But we're three working mums actually. There's three of us. We've got 11 kids between us. So
Can I just say, when she says 3 working mums, she's not including me on that list.
You're not included, Dr. Abs.
Abs is our sort of scientific advisor, and yeah, he's a bit of a guru, as you alluded to earlier.
Yes.
And so yeah, but behind the scenes there's 3 of us, 11 kids, and yeah, we all came to it because we were all either exhausted, which was me, or one of my other founders, Trinity, horrific psoriasis on her legs.
Mm-hmm.
So she uses NAD and glutathione to kind of rejuvenate the skin on her legs from the psoriasis. And Sam,
Did that work for her?
it
It
did.
did. That's very common.
I mean, yeah, we've
Yeah.
got a lot of before and afters, which I think we'll show on our Instagram feed. But yeah, that was amazing. She suffered with psoriasis since her teens.
Wow.
So for the skin, that was a big one for her.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I just want to say also for the record, I work with this company because I believe the product is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not talking about NAD plus in general. I'm talking about their NAD plus because they're not all made equal.
Yeah.
There is a big difference in quality of manufacturing, you know, overages in production, all sorts of technical terms. I've worked with this molecule and its precursors for about 3 or 4 years now, in fact, probably 4 years closer. And I've tried many, many different brands. I became a customer. In fact, I remember the first time I came across the brand, I was at a conference and I saw it in the distance and I ran over and I met Trinity, which Niki just mentioned.
Yeah.
And I just bought it straight away. And I just stayed a customer and I started telling other people about it and talking about how it works and what it does. And even now, I'm not actually an employee of the company.
Mm-hmm.
I am not paid, even to be here now, I'm not paid. I'm here because I genuinely do use this myself and for my patients.
Yeah.
And I really do believe it's the best one when you understand the manufacturing process and all these sorts of things and the different types of NAD plus and the certificates of analysis and working out which one is the best. That's why I don't use it anymore now. I stick with this and then I'm done. I don't want any other brand.
Yeah. I agree with you. And, you know, I'm the same way. I told you guys from day one, I'm not interested in becoming an affiliate or anything. I'm promoting your products and recommending it to my followers because I believe in it so much. I don't want to profit from it. I just want to spread the word because it has done wonders for me and for my family and for my friends. And I just want this information to get out to as many people as possible. I think it's so important.
And I'll just add just the very end of that. I mean, I lost my father to Parkinson's in 2016.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. I mean, you know, but if I'd have known about NAD,
then I know
I wouldn't have looked at the stuff. I would have just gone, let's give it a go, Dad.
Yeah.
And we're not allowed to sell and market NAD for medical issues,
Of course.
you know.
Of course.
But I'm not going to hide from the fact that if you go on nadresearch.org, you will find a study by Dr. Susan Gibson, who has used intranasal NAD for Parkinson's patients, and there has been a big difference in tremors. Do your own research, but I'm not going to hide that fact because I was looking for those answers for my dad, even if it was just to reduce the shaking that people have to suffer with that horrific disease. There's
Amazing.
information out there on what this molecule can do. But
Amazing.
yeah, like I said, yeah. So
thank you guys. I mean, so much. This is absolutely amazing, and so much information. My head's like, pfft. And I know, Dr. Abs, you've got a live coming on in a few minutes, right?
Yeah.
I've signed up for that, so I know I will let you go. So, so I won't hold you guys any longer, but thank you so much for all the information. I will link everything below so people can find you guys. And I mean, it's NAD Plus at home. If you put that in Google, you will find it right away. And I'd love to have you guys back another time so we can dig a little bit deeper. Yes. And I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks, Elaine. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.